Yoma Daf Nun Ches. Today's email comes from Yossi Klein from Superior Plumbing in Muncie. He's the one that started the initiative to give free Gemaras out to people that join the shir. And he writes that from Masechtas Yoma they gave out over 650 Gemaras to people that join the shir. And he's announcing that he wants to continue the project for Masechtas Sukkah, and he believes that he's going to give out over 1,500 Gemaras to 1,500 new participants in the shir. He believes that Masechtas Sukkah is a very popular Masechta, and he says whoever wants to join him on this endeavor should please contact him or Nisanal Gans. So Yishkoyach Yossi Klein, unbelievable schusim, Chelchal Reisa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bench you, B'chol Milei de Meitav. Yoma Daf Nun Ches. The Gemara tells us if a person puts the mizrak, the cup that contains the dam, and he puts it inside another cup, it's not considered a chatzitza. Although the kohen has to hold the cup with his hand, it's not considered a chatzitza, because the pasuk says, as kol kelei hasharis, kelei is plural, sharis is singular, to teach us that two kelim with one avodah is okay. But don't bring a raya, says the Gemara, from a person who stands on his friend's foot. The kohen has to stand directly on the azara floor, and he can't wear shoes, but stepping on a friend's foot is a chatzitza, even though it's a min b'mino, it's the same foot like your foot. The reason is because you cannot be mevatel your friend's foot. Your friend might be mevatel, but not you. You don't have control over your friend's foot, so it's different than two cups. What happens if you put sieve, like a sort of grass, inside the kli, which is certainly not mino, it's the same type, but the blood could go through and pass through the grasses and hit the kli. Some say that it doesn't passel at all, but if you put flour, kmitz, into such a kli, it would passel. There's no rice, says the Gemara, from the case of a far chatos. That is, para aduma, you have to take the ashes and mix it with spring water. It has to be inside a kli, because it says in the pasuk, El Keli. What happens if in that kli there's a sponge? Water contained in the sponge is not considered in the kli, and that water is possible for the paraduma water. But you could still take the water that's not in the sponge. Says the Gemara, but what about the sponge? Isn't the sponge a chatzitza? Shouldn't you bring a raya from here that there's no chatzitza? And the Gemara says there's no raya. The reason is because water is very thin compared to blood, and it's possible that the water goes through and through the sponge and everything and doesn't create a chatzitza, the sponge that is. But where it comes to blood, perhaps the sieve creates chatzitza because the blood is thicker. Says the Mishnah, brand new Mishnah, the Kohen Gadol takes the mixed blood, the goat and the bull, and he comes to the mizbeach hazav, that's the small mizbeach in the heichal, and he smears it with his fingers on all four corners, and he goes in a motion from top to bottom. According to Rabbi Yossi Glili, there's only one parach between the heichal and the Kodesh HaKodashim, and it's open on the north. So he comes out of the north, he's at the north side, and he walks past the western corner, he goes to the eastern corner, northeastern, and the reason is because it says in the pasuk, V'yotza el mizbeach, he goes past the mizbeach. Then he backtracks, he comes back to the northwestern corner, because all your turn should be to the right, counterclockwise is to the right, because you're hugging the mizbeach. And where does he finish off? In the southeastern corner, and that's the exact corner that you actually start when you bring your regular chatas on the mizbeach hachitza. According to Rabbi Kiva, there are two parachas, and therefore the opening to the heichal, or to the Kodesh HaKodashim going from the heichal, is on the south side. So therefore he emerges from the south side, and he passes the southwest corner, goes to the southeast corner, and he takes left turns. He goes clockwise. Why? Because he really should have hit up the first corner that he got to, because emavir now mitzvahs. But this exeris hakasav, as we said before, that he should pass it up and he should go to the second corner. So therefore he has to backtrack and make left turns and go all the way around. Rabbi Eliezer says that you don't make a motion with the shmearing from top to bottom, but rather it's from bottom to top, besides the corner that's right in front of the Kohen Gadol, because that's very hard to go from bottom to top like this. It's a lot easier to go from top to bottom. Either the machlokes is that this idea that you take right turns, you learn from Yam Shel Shlema, Shlomo HaMelech made a beautiful mikvah, and on the bottom it sat on 12 bulls. 3 of them, says the pasuk, were to the north, and 3 of them were to the west. Instead of saying to the east, it says to the west. In other words, the pasuk is saying you should go to the right, you should make right turns, which is counterclockwise is right turns. Or the machlokes is, do we say that we learn the heichal, which is pnim, from the mizbech, which is chutz, which is nazara? Rabbi Akiva says we don't learn. Rabbi Yisrael says you do learn. Yom Kippur, when you throw the blood on the pareichas, the Kohen Gadol is positioned between the mizbech hazav and the heichal, not like the Par Kohen Mashiach, where the Kohen Gadol stands behind the mizbech and throws it all the way to the pareichas, which is approximately 20 feet. 10 amma. Have a wonderful day.